So we're going to be talking about weight loss today. What are some effective strategies? What are some ineffective strategies? Who should you listen to about weight loss and diet and exercise, nutrition in general? Who should you not listen to? I've got 4 studies to run through. The first one is from JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association. This is from February 13, 2006. Effects of low carbohydrate versus low fat diets on weight loss and cardiovascular risk factors. This is a meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials, which is about as good as you're going to get in nutrition. So let's just jump down to the results, because that's what we want to know about. 5 trials, including a total of 447 individuals, fulfilled our inclusion criteria. After 6 months, individuals assigned to low carbohydrate diets had lost more weight than individuals randomized to low fat diets. The weighted mean difference was minus 3.3 kilograms to minus 5.3. The difference, however, was no longer obvious after 12 months. There was no difference in blood pressure, triglyceride, and high density lipoproteins, or HDL. Cholesterol, that's the good cholesterol, that's what everybody says. Values changed more favorably, so you want your HDL to be a little bit higher, and you want your LDL to go down, because those are the ones that cause blood clots and atherosclerosis, among other things, obviously. But HDL went up. It went up in more favorably in individuals assigned to low carb diets after 6 months. For high density lipoproteins, but total cholesterol and low density lipoprotein cholesterol values changed more favorably in individuals assigned to low fat diets. So apparently they're saying that your HDL went up if you were on the what did I just say? I'm already confusing myself. So if you went low carb, your HDL got better, and if you went low fat, your LDL got better. So I guess, if you're someone who has good HDL but high levels of LDL, maybe possibly a low fat would help. Conclusions: low carb, non-energy restricted diets appear to be as effective as low-fat, energy-restricted diets in inducing weight loss for up to 1 year. This does not make sense. Low carbohydrate, non-energy restricted, so not in a caloric deficit. So eating low carbs, not in a caloric deficit, appear to be as effective as low-fat caloric deficit diets for up to 1 year. Interesting. I would imagine that the population they're using, this 447 individuals, were probably people who were eating high carbohydrate to begin with, because most obese people tend to overeat everything, but you're also overeating lots of carbs. And in the body, the way that we break down carbohydrate, we turn it into glucose. And that glucose gets circulated throughout our body, in our liver, our blood. It gets stored into muscle tissue. And then if we have an excess of it, it eventually ends up turning into fat. And so when you go low carb, right, when you kind of are going along eating high carb and then go off a cliff, for each gram or each molecule of carbohydrate, right, each glycogen molecule or glyceride, you can attach 2 H2O molecules to it. They kind of link up quite nicely with the carbon-hydrogen bonds. And so when you go low carb, you'll see a drastic reduction in weight very quickly, and a lot of that tends to be losing water weight. Doesn't mean that you're losing dry mass, you're losing water weight, which isn't bad. It just means that it's going to be difficult to not regain that water weight if you jump off of the diet right afterwards. Just something to be aware of. Yeah, then they talk about obesity and everything, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's move to the next one. This is the International Journal of Obesity from 2005. Systematic review of long-term weight loss studies in obese adults. Clinical significance and applicability to clinical practice. So, you're clinicians who are trying to help people lose weight. So, background, we don't need that. Methods, we don't really need that. They went through 1, 2, 3, and 4 years. All right, so results. Dietary/lifestyle therapy provides less than 5 kilograms of weight loss on average after 2 to 4 years. Pharmacologic therapy provides 5 to 10 kilograms of weight loss after 1 to 2 years. And surgical therapy provides 25 to 75 kilograms weight loss after 2 to 4 years. So weight loss of greater than 5% baseline weight is not consistently associated with improvements in cardiovascular risk factors. No. Weight loss of less than, yes, I'm sorry, they have that flipped. So weight loss of less than 5% of your overall body weight at the start of your therapy, whether it's a diet or surgical therapy or whatever it is not consistently associated with improvements in cardiovascular health and risk factors. And these benefits appear to be intervention specific and occur mainly in people with concomitant cardiovascular risk factors. So if you've got hypertension, if you've got diabetes, if you've got atherosclerosis, if you've got genetic history in your family, hereditary history of heart attack and stroke and things like that, whatever, then obviously some of these things are going to get better. Weight loss studies have methodologic limitations that restrict the applicability of findings to unselected or obese people assessed in everyday clinical practice, blah, blah, blah. Conclusions: dietary/lifestyle and pharmacologic weight loss interventions provide modest weight loss and may improve markers of cardiovascular risk factors, although these benefits occur mainly in patients with cardiovascular risks. Studies investigating weight loss have methodologic limitations that restrict the applicability of findings to obese patients assessed in clinical practice. So that's their little liability clause. All right, that was nothing groundbreaking. Let's move to the next one. This is Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism, a journal of pharmacology and therapeutics. Effects of an energy-restricted, low-carbohydrate, high in unsaturated fat and low saturated fat diet versus a high-carbohydrate, low-fat diet. So low-fat versus high-fat, or low-carb, versus low-fat. In type 2 diabetes, a 2-year randomized clinical trial. So 115 adults with a BMI averaging 34.6, which is definitely obese, around 58, so just under 60, were randomized to one of two planned energy-matched hypocaloric diets. So both of these people are in a caloric deficit, both of these two groups, combined with aerobic and / resistance exercise 1 hour, 3 days a week for 2 years. So low carb, LC, 14% energy as carbohydrate. That's quite low for carb. 28 as protein. That's also a little low if you're trying to lose weight, but this is the way they did it. And 58% as fat. That's definitely going to probably bump you into ketosis over time. And it's important to note that less than 10% of that was coming from saturated fat. Or low fat, high carbohydrate, low glycemic index diet. High carb was 53% carbohydrate, 17% as protein, and 30% as fat. Once again, 17% protein is very low. Protein has the highest thermic effect, somewhere around 25%. So if you eat 100 calories from protein, somewhere around 25 of those calories are essentially going to be lost to the metabolic processes that occur when your body has to break down protein, metabolize it, denature the protein into amino acid strands, and then all those things, and also rip off the nitrogen compound off the protein molecule and then process that through your blood, through your kidneys, so you pee it out and excrete it out through your feces and everything. So all these things add up into having protein have a higher thermic effect. And so typically with weight loss experts, what you'll see is they'll assign people to have a higher protein macronutrient proportion to the rest of carbs and fats. But, that's my caveat for this study. Okay, so results. A total of 61 out of 115 finished. Shocker. This is quite a hard trial for 2 years. Participants completed the study. Reductions in weight, estimated marginal mean, blah, blah, blah. So low carb was 6.8, high carb was 6.6. Blood pressure looks relatively the same, and it's got all these numbers. I'm not going to read through all of them because it'll bore you, but it's going to be posted down below. You can go check it out if you like. Okay, conclusions. Both diets achieved comparable weight loss and HbA1c reductions. The low carb sustained greater reductions in diabetes medication requirements and in improvements in diurnal, so day and night, blood glucose stability and blood lipid profile, with no adverse renal effects, suggesting greater optimization of type 2 diabetes management. So, moral of this story, I guess, is that it does not matter if you are on low fat, high fat, keto, paleo, vegan, whatever, right? The macronutrient breakdown of your diet is secondary to the caloric breakdown of the diet. If you're eating in a caloric deficit over time, you will lose weight. That is the definition of being in a caloric deficit. There's, by rote definition, you're effectively losing weight. And provided that you are exercising even a little bit, most of that weight is going to be fat. Everybody's body is different. So, for example, if I were to try to lose 10 pounds, I would probably lose a higher percentage of lean body mass because my body is used to having lean body mass, and I don't have a lot of fat on me. But if you had an obese person, the vast majority of the weight that they lose initially is going to come from fat mass. And also, low carb over a sustained period of time in this study showed that you can reduce the amount of insulin that you need. Maybe you even lower your metformin dose. Who knows? But obviously, the conclusion that these researchers came to was that low carb sustained greater reductions in diabetes medication requirements. So, things like metformin, things like injecting yourself with insulin every week or every day, God forbid, and improvements in diurnal blood glucose stability. So you eat at night, you go to bed, your blood glucose is going to be elevated right after you eat, obviously, and then you wake up in the morning and you're going to have a crash and all these things. So eating low carb helped to keep those peaks and valleys more consistent over time. All right, last study. I promise this is the last one. Science Direct, this is from the European Journal of Internal Medicine. Quality of life in type 2 diabetes mellitus after a very low-calorie diet and exercise. All right, so this is more focused on quality of life stuff. How do you feel? How does your life feel to you? 27 obese patients who are insulin dependent in a 16-week VLCD, so very low-calorie diet. 13 participated simultaneously in an exercise program. They do not give us specifics on that. And results. At baseline, type 2 diabetes patients had significantly worse quality of life scores in 18 and 14 of the 22 subscales of the quality of life questionnaires compared to lean and obese controls. So, if you're a lean person, you have a quality of life. If you're an obese person, you have a quality of life. Maybe it's here, right? Whatever. And then if you're obese and have type 2 diabetes, you were there. And this is just talking about that. The 16-week very low-calorie diet decreased body weight by around 25.5 kilograms, plus or minus 1.3 for the standard deviation, which is pretty damn good. and improved glucoregulation and HbA1c, and 9 very low calorie diet, and 11 of the 22 subscales of the quality of life. After 18 months in the very low calorie diet plus exercise group, the quality of life subscales did not differ from those in obese controls, and only 4 of the 22 subscales were significantly worse and compared to lean controls. Okay, so once again, we have, lean people, obese people with type 2 diabetes. So after 18 months, a year and a half of very low calorie diet plus exercise, these people rose up to the same quality of life as being just obese, and even in some cases exceeded them. That's great to know. Conclusion, a 16-week very low calorie diet induces considerable weight loss, metabolic amelioration, and major improvements in quality of life in obese type 2 diabetes, and they said they were insulin-dependent individuals, patients. The addition of exercise is of paramount importance for the maintenance of better quality of life. Okay, so that is the last study. Now we're going to talk about couple other things real fast, and I'm going to try to get this out in the next 4 minutes so it's not over 20 minutes and I lose everybody. So what have we learned? Right, well, from the research I've read in the past, and I've got a video talking about some book that some guy wrote that was full of crap, and I can link that in the description below as well. Calories are king, right? It does not matter let me not say that. Let me be specific. The macronutrient breakdown of the calories that you eat on a daily basis or weekly basis is not as important for weight loss as simply the amount of calories that you're eating. So, in simple terms, eat less calories than you expend and you will lose weight. That's where that margin is, okay? Now, there are many ways to achieve a caloric deficit. Okay, and this is the second point is that I'm going to hammer into is consistency. So whatever method allows you to achieve remaining consistent in a caloric deficit over time, and I don't just mean for 4 months, I mean like for years, do that. Whether it's intermittent fasting, eating 2 meals a day, time restricted eating, 16 fasting, 8 eating, whatever. Whether that's going vegan and supplementing with B vitamins and iron and other things, right? And so hopefully some extra protein as well, because the protein sources in straight vegan diets are not as high quality as animal sources. Whether it's paleo and you just, you like the idea of being animalistic and eating like that, great, go for it. Whether it's low carb, whether it's low fat, it does not matter, okay? Once again, I'll reiterate, in my opinion and in my experience, what I've seen in the past with people, increasing the amount of protein that you take in during the day tends to be an aid, tends to help people maintain calorie deficits. And there's several reasons for that. One is the thermic effect of food that I talked about before. The other is that protein is highly satiating, meaning that you're going to feel full after eating less calories than if you were just eating rice or donuts or cookies or pasta, just simple carbs. On top of that, in a calorie deficit, eating high levels of protein or higher levels of protein allows you to hang on to lean body mass. So your connective tissue, your joint cartilage, your bone density, your muscle mass, all these things that allows you to retain higher levels than you normally would if you were on a very low protein diet. And I did not read a study about that today, but I can do another video about it later. If that's interesting to you, just post a comment down below and let me know and I'll do it. But there's much research that bears that out. And, so consistency, right? So calories are king. Eat in a caloric deficit. Whatever method allows you to remain consistent in a caloric deficit over time, do that. Whatever it is for you, do that and stay with it. Be determined, be disciplined, be consistent, and you will lose the weight. And the last thing is this. Who should you listen to when it comes to weight loss? If you have someone that's really pushing some specific thing, some supplement, some idea, some book that they wrote, view that with skepticism, okay? In the world of nutrition and dietetics, there is no magic secret diet that fixes people, that cures cancer, it does not exist. If it does, we have not found it yet, okay? There is discipline and determination, and those are the factors for success.